if the left is going to be taken seriously, and if the left is going to be able to actually govern, it has to think not merely in general economic terms or slogans or denounce the enemy. It has to be able to think of its own positive economic policies. I think the best way to think of it is the following. Let's suppose we, the left wing, come to office. What will we do in the first 100 days? Not what slogans will we issue, what actual economic measures will we do that will ensure that we will remain popular and in office, that the economy will grow, that social needs of the people will be met. This is the crucial question, and that's totally practical. Now, that needs a massive amount of information, and that information, in most cases, is available to the international organisations like the IMF or the OECD or the World Bank, which they misuse, of course, to put forward the wrong types of policies. But the left, to run an economy, I was in charge of London's economic policy for 8 years. Now, that's not a country, but it's a very big economy. And even that, to run a very big city economy, you need a lot of practical information. That is not possible for individuals using Excel or other means to get with the data. It just simply cannot be done. We need to have big data processing capacities, and that's what Global South Insights gives. It can analyse the patterns of all countries in the world. It can take hundreds of indicators, and we can therefore work out not merely the general trends which are taking place in the world economy, which are very important strategically. We need to know what is the role of investment, the role of trade, the role of commodity prices and things like that, but also to analyse the precise situation in the economy. This is impossible for a single human being to do. It has to have resources because it needs all sorts of specialists. It needs IT specialists, it needs AI specialists, it needs economic specialists. And that is what I think GSI has really created for the left. I honestly believe that the data processing and AI capacities of GSI are the best in the world for two reasons. One, they're technically as efficient and proficient as the IMF and OECD, etc. But of course, they have a much more correct framework because they're looking at the real processes which take place in the economy as opposed to attempting to be ideology. And this is very important to work out the specific character of each economy, because what the IMF attempts to do is it attempts to give you a general pattern, which it then applies to any economy. It doesn't actually know very much about frequently the situation in the economy because from its general model, it works out what has to be done. In fact, for example, China always emphasizes when it talks about socialism with Chinese characteristics, you have to know what is the specific character of the country, what is the specific situation in a particular country at a particular point in time, which changes its development. And I think that what GSI gives for the first time ever is it gives to the left the same capacity as other international institutions. Of course, some individual countries have this. China has to run its own economic policy and has a very sophisticated policy, but of course that's orientated to dealing with the situation of China. To work that out when you're not in power and to work it out for a series of global south countries, that is a resource which is not available. And with its combination of big data statistics, AI and an economic framework, I think this gives an absolutely unprecedented means to the left, and it will strengthen it from 2 points of view. Firstly, how to get to office, because of course whether you've got a credible economic policy or not, or you appear merely to be talking hot air, will very much affect electoral support, political support, etc. And secondly, when the governments of the left are formed, that they are able to work out their own economic policies correctly. So I think that this is really a game-changing process from the point of view of the development of the international left.